Day 5 of Miami Dolphins training camp is in the books, and on today's edition of Dolphins Today, we're going to look at the latest news, highlights, and injury reports from training camp before we get into padded practices. And I do want to make sure you guys stick around for the end of today's show because we're going to go through some highlights, some updates, and then at the end, we're going to talk about a couple injuries here. Kader Kohou, Aaron Brewer. We'll also talk a little bit about Darren Waller as well. So stay tuned throughout the show so you can get the latest update on those three players and their status and when they can return to practices. But we're going to start by talking about the highlight of the day, and that is quarterback Quinn Ewers. He has put together a couple solid practices at training camp. Obviously, the 7th-round pick out of Texas, QB3 on this Dolphins roster behind Tua and Zach Wilson. Could he push for Wilson's QB2 job? Maybe, but Wilson has certainly not done enough to hold off Ewers, who has had a really good start to his NFL career, at least with training camp. Barry Jackson noted the success that Ewers had today, saying that he hit a wide-open Theo Wease Jr. for an 8-yard touchdown. There was clearly busted coverage on the play, but then Ewers hit Wease again in the back of the end zone for another touchdown in a red zone period, and then hit Armstrong for a 4-yard touchdown again to end red zone drills. Obviously, I do want to make this clear that today there was a lot of red zone work, so naturally you're going to find a lot of touchdowns being thrown. But the point is this, and you've seen so many different beat reporters talk about it since the first OTAs and rookie minicamp in May and April, that Quinn Ewers has progressed just so nicely time after time. He had a shaky OTAs period. I think he even had a little bit of a shaky Dolphins mandatory minicamp in June. But Mike McDaniel said it today at his press conference. Beat reporters are saying it with their eyes. They're there at camp every day. That he is continuing to stack days. He's continuing to develop. He's continuing to get better day in and day out at training camp. And maybe we have a solid young developmental QB on our hands. I've also already seen one beat reporter, I'm spacing on the name, so I apologize if they are watching today's show, that said Quinn Ewers already looks better than what Skylar Thompson brought to the table. Oh, so we're off to a good start there. And if you want more updates on the Miami Dolphins, make sure you follow me over on Twitter/X. I'm posting highlights, videos from training camp, my thoughts, more updates around the Fins. We're at 2,111 followers. Appreciate everybody who has followed recently, but we're going to continue to try to grow. And if you've been with us from the start of the offseason, we talked about how important backup quarterback was for Miami. The Dolphins simply haven't had a good one for Tua in a while. Actually, ever, if we're going to be honest. And when they selected Quinn Ewers in the 7th round, I was very happy. Go back and watch the film, watch the tape. I was ecstatic. I was through the roof. He's got so much talent. Just so, like the arm talent, the height, the ability that he has to just flick the football, and you see the velocity, the distance on it. It's just so impressive. And I just hope that he can continue to develop, because if he cleans up his mechanics, he cleans up his footwork, and becomes a sharp, decisive decision maker, we're talking about a guy that can severely outperform his draft slot, whether that is a starter in the National Football League or a high-end backup for Tua. Either way, let's hope he develops into something nice here for Miami. And I also want to note this as well. Theo Wease Jr. is balling out. He caught 2 of those 3 touchdowns that we noted from Quinn Ewers in red zone work earlier today. And Miami is getting everything they could have asked for in Theo Wease Jr. They gave him a significant chunk of change after the draft in UDFA to get him in Miami. And although myself and a lot of other people hyped up Andrew Armstrong as the UDFA wide receiver to keep an eye on, Theo Wease Jr. put together a really solid OTAs and mandatory minicamp, and he's continuing to put together a good first week at Dolphins training camp. This is a player that really could threaten for a roster spot when this thing's cut down to 53 players. We know they're going to keep 4 in Tyreek Hill, Waddle, Nick Westbrook-Ikini, and Malik Washington. The question is how many players make this roster outside of those 4 guys? Is it 1 and they keep 5? Is it 2 and they keep 6? If it's 2, Theo Wease Jr. will certainly have a bid for a 53-man roster spot. If it's only 1, he will have to somehow overtake D. Eskridge, who I think has a firm grasp on that wide receiver 5 spot due to his veteran presence and ability to play on special teams. Plus, he has put together a couple of solid practices early on in training camp. This battle for wide receiver 5 will be something we continue to monitor as we go through training camp and into the Dolphins preseason. But let me know your thoughts right now. You can do a little bit of an early projection. Will Theo Wease Jr. make the roster for Miami? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Pin comment on this show. We also had a fight today. I said I cover everything Dolphins related on Twitter. Well, here's the example. There was video to accompany this tweet. I said it earlier, and I completely stand by this, and I will always say this. A fight in training camp, as long as it's not serious and punches are being thrown and we got injuries happening and multiple players just throwing punches, I think it's a good thing. And Kenneth Grant and Andrew Meyer got after it today. Why is it a good thing, in my opinion? Well, it just shows you that there's fire, there's competitiveness at the highest level. And to me, you practice with these guys. You see these guys every day. We haven't gotten to pads yet, but we're going to soon be hitting people every single day. There's just bound to be some solid inner competition between these guys. And I'll just always say that when you see these guys fighting, and it just shows that they care and that they want to succeed, and that's why it's a good thing in my book. So as long as punches weren't thrown, which by all accounts they weren't, happy with the little pushing and shoving after the plays, if you will. A standout that we need to talk about from practice today and really the first week has been linebacker Willie Gay Jr. Miami signed him to a 1-year deal in NFL free agency. They signed him, KJ Britt, and Tyrell Dodson, 3 linebackers there. He has been an absolute standout player for Miami through the first 5 practices. Omar Kelly noted that he has been a top 5 player defensively, not just as the team, but just on defense, and says that he looks like a starter. And maybe that will be the case. I tweeted it out this morning at 9:30 saying that Willie Gay Jr. has been the biggest standout in Dolphins training camp. Dude is absolutely flying around the football field. We already know that he's an athlete. He can go sideline to sideline in pass coverage, but he's made a lot of plays in some blitz packages, in some run stopping. And yes, we're not tackling yet, so who knows if he would have made the tackles, but you just see the quick first step, the talent and speed that Willie Gay Jr. possesses. And just today at practice in 11-on-11s, he had what was credited for a sack, a PBU, and then another dropped interception. So you can argue he had 1 sack and 2 BBUs, but I wanted to split it up into a pass breakup and then a dropped INT. The point is, he is playing so well right now. I tell you what, the Dolphins signed Tyrell Dodson to a 2-year, $8 million deal in free agency, and he played well down the stretch last year. The way Willie Gay Jr. is playing the first week of practice, there is no guarantee that Tyrell Dodson will be your starting linebacker too alongside Jordan Brooks. It very well could be Willie Gay Jr. Now, these linebackers will likely separate themselves when the pads come on Wednesday and Tuesday, but with pads off, Willie Gay Jr. certainly looks like a starting caliber linebacker for the Miami Dolphins. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're going to continue to ramp up our coverage, pushing out 2 videos every single day. We also go live every Tuesday, so join us for that live show tomorrow. But we're also on the road. The next channel that has the most subscribers than us is the Chiefs Report. They have 1,000 and change. Well, let's change that. Hit that sub button for daily coverage, but let's also track down the Chiefs Report here at Chat Sports and get higher on the leaderboard here at the company. I will say this, before we move over to some injury updates, I am through the roof. We're filming this on Monday afternoon after day 5 of practice. Day 6 is upon us, which means the pads come on. Tuesday, we will see players put the pads on. We'll see some physicality. I can't wait to see the trenches go at it. I'm so excited to see this front 5 offensive line Obviously, no Aaron Brewer right now. We'll see if James Daniels participates, but Patrick Paul, Austin Jackson, Jonah Savainaya. Can't wait to see them go after Zach Sealer, Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, if they participate. Kenneth Grant. I'm just so pumped up to see this. You'll see real football on the field, and when we're breaking down these plays and highlights, well, we actually know what it means because, well, there's actually contact. We're not going to see too much big collisions or tackles because we try to refrain from injuries, and let's just hope we don't see any more injuries as well. All right, let's move over to the injury front on today's show because we already have some injuries that I wanted to provide updates on. We'll start with the most severe one and most important, if you will. That's corner Kader Kohou went down with a lower body injury late last week. Apparently, via Mike McDaniel this morning, he is day-to-day, and he's experiencing some swelling. McDaniel said he's had a couple evaluations from his next step. Doesn't sound like he's going to practice this week, at least not early on. McDaniel said that there really isn't an update because they don't have one. Now, I will also add this. Miami is not compelled to provide updates on any injury during training camp. You are expected and demanded to provide updates in the regular season and when we're going on a week-to-week basis, but you do not need to do it now. So McDaniel could be telling the truth. He could be lying. I hope that he is back sooner rather than later. It's obviously not great that he's going to probably not practice this week at all. I just hope that he will be back in the next couple of weeks, but I do want to note you need to be cautious because this is the best cornerback on the Miami Dolphins roster by, I would say, a wide margin. Obviously, Miami made a couple moves late last week. They signed Jack Jones. They signed Mike Hilton. They signed Cornell Armstrong following the Artie Burns injury, the injury to B.J. Adams. He's in concussion protocol. And then the Kader Kohou, little of an injury here. So you have three corners come in, three corners banged up. But I'll say, and the reason why I really hope Kader Kohou is okay, that room that we just showcased on screen, I don't hate it. We talked about Rasul Douglas. We've talked about Asante Samuel Jr. And although those two would be your pretty much boundary corners, and right now Cam Smith and Storm Duck would probably be your two boundary corners still, maybe Jack Jones can flash. He's got a ton of talent. He's been a starting boundary guy in the past for the Raiders and the Patriots. Mike Hilton is an absolute veteran, and maybe you could play him in the slot at times and move Kader Kohou outside because Kader did do it a little bit late last year with injuries to Kendall Fuller and company. So this room is certainly better than what it was. If Kader Kohou is severely injured, well, then you just replace him with Mike Hilton, and I'd still probably ask Miami to sign another corner potentially. But if Kohou's able to play early on in the season, which is the hope here, well, this cornerback room is certainly better than what it was a week ago. We're going to move to Aaron Brewer and Darren Waller here, but grab this cutoff hoodie today because I don't know how much longer this sale is going to be available. Usually $55. You can get it for $33 right now. Just go to chatsports.com/MIA cutoff sale. Links in the description and comments of today's video. All sizes are in stock, but like I said, that price might go back up to $55 soon, so grab yours now. After a little bit of negativity with Kader Kohou, let's get to some good news through Miami here. Aaron Brewer will be sprinkled into some walkthroughs at practices this week. He has not been practicing in team activities with Miami in the first week of training camp. Mike McDaniel providing the note there. And this is important because he is a big piece for the Fins this upcoming season. He was a top 10 center in the National Football League a year ago. And with so much overhaul on the interior offensive line, going from Robert Jones to James Daniels, going from Liam Eichenberg to Jonah Savainaya, the one constant is Aaron Brewer, and you want to see that continue to be there. So Brewer is a key piece for Miami this year. He was awesome last season. Let's hope that he returns sooner rather than later. Another player that is expected to have a role, Ifeatu Melifonwu. He is currently on the non-football injury list. Mike McDaniel said there has been positive progress with Melifonwu. So the hope is the free agent safety that Miami signed from Detroit this March is able to return to the organization and get to the practice field sooner rather than later. And then we'll round out today's show by talking about Darren Waller and an update with him because he has not been practicing with the team in the first week of training camp. Mike McDaniel saying that he has been very active with solo work and tight end coach John Embry. Mike McDaniel noted Waller has been in tremendous shape. Obviously didn't play last season. He was retired, but noted that they don't want to be fooled into thinking that his normal unbelievable shape is in football shape. So they're continuing to ramp him up with his conditioning, his workouts, his everything in between. So when he could step on the football field at practice for Miami, there will be no setbacks and he will be a full go. I always knew this was going to take time with Darren Waller. You just simply don't go from the couch to the football field in a year break and make it work instantly. I'm not saying he was out of shape. I believe he was very much in shape, and he obviously is in good shape, according to Mike McDaniel. But like Mike mentioned, there is a big difference between looking ripped, being in good condition, and being ready to play an NFL practice, an NFL game. So this will take time. It's also why I would be very much open to signing Noah Fant, which we've talked about quite a bit. That'll do it for today's show. As I said earlier, make sure you follow me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff, because if Miami makes a move to the roster, I will have you covered over on social media prior to making a video, but we're also posting highlights, news, and more from training camp practices. So if you want the best coverage around the Fins, subscribe, follow me over on Twitter.